Murray, and it's a great pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, I think for the first time today. And I'm delighted to have secured this debate marking Infant Mental Health Week. Infant Mental Health Week is an annual opportunity to highlight that actually human beings are the most underdeveloped creature on earth at birth. Our brains, and therefore our responses, our reactions, and our knowledge is completely undeveloped. In fact, many people would say we're born about 2 years premature. What other animal can't do anything for itself until it is at least a year old? Well, that's the plight of human beings. So infant mental health is therefore, without any shadow of a doubt, more important than mental health throughout the rest of your life, because it's here in that critical period when you are so small you don't know what's what or where's where. That is when your ability to have secure lifelong mental health is laid down. From conception to the age of 2, a secure and loving relationship between a baby and his or her carer literally shapes the way the baby's brain develops. It's when the building blocks for lifelong physical and emotional health are laid down. And like a sponge, the baby's developing brain will soak up the atmosphere around them and the environment that he or she is born into. In the womb, a baby whose mum is terrified of childbirth, or is being treated with violence by her partner, or who is misusing alcohol or drugs, will be profoundly physically and mentally impacted by that experience. Infant mental health, or more specifically, early intervention in the first 1,001 critical days of life from conception to the age of 2, has been a passion of mine for more than 25 years. I chaired the Oxford Parent-Infant Project in 1999 and set up NORPIP, the Northamptonshire Parent-Infant Project, providing parent-infant psychotherapy to families who are struggling to form a secure bond with their babies. I established PIP UK, a national charity that went on to establish and support a number of other parent-infant teams right around the country. I also wrote the 1,001 Critical Days Manifesto that went on to become the first 1,001 Days movement. Infant mental health is a subject incredibly dear to my heart. So science tells us that a secure and loving relationship with a key carer will shape the way the baby's brain develops, with long-term and positive consequences for that baby's mental health. Fundamentally, it is about self-regulation. A baby who is secure in his or her earliest relationships will later on be able to experience anger, fear, jealousy, and disappointment, and they will be able to regulate their own responses in an appropriate way. And it's the earliest relationship between parents and their babies that constructs that ability to self-regulate and hence delivers that pathway to good lifelong mental health. Research released today by the Royal Foundation demonstrates that 91% of parents and carers agree that early years are important in shaping an adult's life, but only 17% recognise how uniquely important the period from birth to 5 is. As the Duchess of Cambridge said herself, our experiences in early childhood fundamentally impact our whole life and set the foundation for how we go on to thrive as individuals, with one another, as a community and as a society. In 2015, the NCT found that 1 in 3 first-time dads were worried about their mental health following their baby's birth. And we know that according to the Maternal Mental Health Alliance, up to 1 in 5 mums sadly suffer due to the lack of focus on support for mental health in the perinatal period. Unfortunately, we don't really have granular information on perinatal depression of the parents and carers in order to properly impact assess the mental health effect on babies. But the mental health of the parent does very clearly impact on their baby's development. We know a very good example of this is that a pregnant mum who suffers from stress, for whatever reason, will produce more cortisol in her bloodstream, the stress hormone, which will pass through the placenta into the unborn child. The more stressed the mother, the more frequently the fetus is exposed to higher levels of cortisol. And we know that exposure to high levels of cortisol in the womb can lead to modifications in gene expressions before the baby's even born. So even in the womb, the potential for lifelong emotional and physical health is already being determined. Once out of the womb, being left to cry unattended for continuous, lengthy periods of time, or being terrified by witnessing violence and anger within the family, or through loud and aggressive behaviour in their environment, all of those experiences will have the same impact on the baby of raising the baby's levels of cortisol. And over lengthy periods of time, there is evidence that this damages the baby's immune system, and evidence suggests will give him or her a lifelong predisposition towards higher risk-taking behaviour. Now, when a baby's born, they have no cognition at all. The baby can only cry or sleep or look around. They don't know if they're cold or hungry or bored or in pain. They only know something's wrong. So a baby cries to attract the attention of a loving adult carer. When that carer turns up and takes the time to soothe the baby, to change the baby, to feed the baby, to sing to the baby, the impact of this tender and loving response brings the baby back to a state of calm, reduces the level of stress until the baby is old enough to understand how to regulate his or her own feelings. And if not even more important is the fact that at birth, a baby's brain is only partially formed. And it's understood that a baby's brain puts on up to 1 billion neural connections every minute during the first year of life. Those neural connections are literally stimulated by the quality of attention of the principal loving carer and the experiences of the world around them, which is why, for the healthy brain development of a baby, parental attunement and loving attention are fundamental. So simply put, what you do with a baby from conception to the age of 2 is about building the human and emotional capacity of that infant. What you do after the age of 2 is almost all about trying to reverse damage that is already done. There is a wealth of evidence that demonstrates that poor mental health, substance dependency, and domestic abuse amongst parents leads to significantly poorer outcomes for babies and young children. Research from the Maternal Mental Health Alliance highlights that where some of the greatest levels of socio-economic deprivation exist are also where poor maternal mental health is at its highest. When they start school, children from such disadvantage are on average 4 months behind their peers, and it gets worse from there on in. The quality of attachment that a baby has to their principal adult caregiver therefore has a profound impact on their lifelong mental health. And the ambition for our society should be for every baby to achieve a secure attachment to that caregiver, be it mum, dad, kinship carer, or adoptive parent. Secure attachment is the foundation for good lifelong mental health. Its possible effects having an impact on parenting from one generation to the next. If you were well parented, then there's a high likelihood you will become a good enough parent and your baby will form a secure attachment to you. And examples of insecure attachment are found, therefore, where caregiving is inconsistent. Babies who suffer from insecure attachment aren't given the consistent, loving care that they need in order to feel that the world is a good place and that people are generally kind. Neglect of a baby has a very damaging impact. The baby with insecure attachment will, of course, have other chances in life. We never write anyone off. Babies who are insecurely attached in the very early stages will have lots of other opportunities to make good friends, to have other key adults in their life who might help to turn things around for them and to help them build their own emotional capability. But there is no doubt that insecurely attached infants will always struggle a bit more in later life to deal with life's ups and downs. It will be those babies who might struggle to keep friends and relationships and might also struggle to cope without help with parenting when their time comes. This is sometimes known as the cycle of deprivation, where general lack of good mental health is passed down from one generation to the next. But the most challenging early mental health impact is reserved for those babies who develop a disorganised attachment with their principal caregiver. That's where the person you rely on to look after you, to soothe you, to keep you alive when you're a baby, is also the most dangerous person in your life. The person you turn to for comfort might one moment hurt you and the next moment hug you. These babies very often find that making sense of the world becomes very difficult, and many of the most damaging outcomes in society, criminality, suicide, self-harm, sociopathic behaviour, are enacted by those who suffer disorganised attachment as a baby. So it should be blindingly obvious to all that whatever we do to invest in giving every baby the best start for life will pay us back 1,000,000 times over, 1,000,000,000 times over, in terms of general well-being, healthy communities and a stronger society. Now, if we had a long way to go before COVID lockdown, then there's no doubt that this Infant Mental Health Week is vital because it shines a spotlight on the huge damage done by 2 years of pandemic lockdowns. Dads and co-partners not permitted to be with mum and the new baby, face-to-face health visits and other support like family hubs moving to virtual only, wider family and friends unable to meet the new arrival and provide support, babies not able to meet other babies, and an exacerbation of existing problems such as addictions, domestic violence and poor mental health. But above all else, the devastating isolation at a time when we all know that new parents are desperate to get out the house, go and have a chat with another parent about the sleep you didn't get last night. You know, what size nappies should we have? What are you doing about weaning? Has your baby got their first tooth yet? All of the chats and the empathy and the consolation that new parents give to each other, all missing during COVID lockdown. A report carried out by the Parent Infant Foundation, Best Beginnings and Home Start, titled Babies in Lockdown, revealed that 6 in 10 were concerned about parental mental health in lockdown, and 2/3 said that COVID had affected their ability to cope with caring for their baby. Now, we know that health visitors provide a vital support service to families who are struggling. Every family in England should be offered 5 mandated reviews from a health visitor between pregnancy and age 2.5 as a minimum. Yet even though local authorities, many of whom are still using phone and virtual appointments to count as reviews, they have reported in their latest quarterly data from May that 18.6% of babies missed out on their 9 to 12 month review, and over a quarter of toddlers missed out on their 2 to 2.5 year review. And that's including all those who got the telephone only service. There were still many who didn't get anything at all. And again, published in May, only 85% of children in England were at or above their expected level in communication skills, compared to 89% before the pandemic. And 79% were at or above the expected level in 5 key development assessments at that review stage, compared to 83% pre-pandemic. A report by Ofsted in April 2022 found that the pandemic has continued to affect young children's communication and language development, with many providers noticing delays in speech and language. The negative impact on children's personal, social and emotional development has also continued, with many lacking confidence in group activities, and social and friendship building skills have been affected. There also continues to be an impact on children's physical development, including delays in babies learning to crawl and to walk. Lockdown has caused and exacerbated many already existing challenges. So in my opinion, the Early Years Healthy Development Review that I'm chairing could not have come at a more important time. From the summer of 2020, the review has been focused on ensuring that every baby gets the best start for life. The vision sets out 6 key action areas, and these were made government policy in March 2021. the action areas will deliver, first, a joined-up set of Start for Life services for every single family in England. Second, the rollout of family hubs as a welcoming place, providing physical, virtual and outreach services for every single family in England. Third, trusted digital, virtual and telephone support designed to meet the needs of the baby and their carers, as well as the development of the digital Red Book that will allow much greater continuity of care for every baby. Fourth, a modern mixed skills workforce that will provide much greater continuity of care and that works with the baby at the centre of everything we do to deliver wraparound empathetic support. Fifth, we need much more understanding of the impact and potential of early intervention. So we will also be improving data collection, evaluation, outcomes for the mental health and well-being of babies and their families, and be developing proportionate inspection of services. And then sixth, this will all require real leadership, both locally and nationally. And of course, fundamentally, Mrs. Murray, we need to ensure that the Treasury will continue to fund the Best Start for Life for the long run. So I'm delighted that this vision is shared cross-party, because I have no doubt that spokespeople on all benches here today will want to add their support to giving every baby the best start for life. And it is a fantastically cross-party issue, and I pay tribute to the many colleagues here today, but also who couldn't be here, who lend their support over so many years for this agenda. The views and lived experiences of babies and their carers have been at the heart of the Early Years Review, from Blackpool to Stoke-on-Trent, from Worthing to Bexley-Heath, from Camden to Cornwall. Parents have shared with us the good and the bad. My 1001 Critical Days podcast has highlighted the mental health journeys of parents and their babies, and an LBC phone-in really made clear the challenges faced by so many dads and co-parents, and the particular support that they need and is currently lacking in their amazing journey to parenting. Time and time again, we've heard every parent wants to know how to be a good parent, where they can access early years support, what is on offer for them, and why they might need that support. They want companionship and not to be isolated, and they want to be able to share their stories with parents in a similar situation to them. We heard from parents of babies with disabilities that they don't want to be left out and stigmatised and treated as different. We heard from many parents from different ethnic backgrounds, LGBT parents, single parents and foster parents, that they don't want to be treated any differently from other parents either. All parents of every type were asking for a seamless, joined-up approach to accessing the support they need. A priority is for face-to-face support, but in this 21st century, parents and carers also want access to services virtually when it's urgent or time-pressing, or they just have a quick question. Parents also want to avoid telling their story over and over again to different early years professionals. And there's huge support for a digital version of the Red Book, where parents can keep a permanent record of their baby's birth experience, baby's first tooth, first photo with granny, and all of the other lovely records that parents want to have, as well as communicating with the professionals who are supporting them. And so, Mrs. Murray, the positive to take away from today's debate is that if we provide the support and if we really do reach out and make sure that every family knows where to go to get help and they are educated as to what good looks like, then I personally have no doubt that we can transform our society for the better. And to end, I would just like, in her Platinum Jubilee year, to use the words of the Queen. In the birth of a child, there is a new dawn with endless potential. Thank you.